Welcome to the deep dive, where we really try to cut through the noise on some of the most fascinating and sometimes, well, baffling stories happening out there.
Yeah, definitely baffling sometimes.
Today, we're diving into something truly remarkable, maybe even a bit weird. A recent high-level summit between the leaders of Russia and the beautiful country, the USA, held up in Alaska.
Right.
From the outside, it looked, I don't know, almost like an accident scene, sort of mysterious, odd, completely unexpected.
It's a good way to put it.
And just before we jump in, a quick note for clarity. Throughout this deep dive, you'll hear us use the beautiful country for the USA and Chuan for its leader.
Yeah, these terms are straight from the specific source material we're looking at today. It helps us stick closely to its unique perspective.
Exactly. It keeps us grounded in the source.
Mm-hmm.
And the world was watching this summit, right?
Uh-huh.
Expecting, I don't know, big announcements, maybe major breakthroughs. But what actually happened was, well, way more complex and, frankly, a bit chaotic, it seems.
Chaotic is right. So our mission today is really to unpack this source material, try to piece together why this summit even took place, what really happened behind the scenes, and what this whole saga tells us about high-stakes diplomacy, which is often pretty opaque.
Absolutely. For most of us, I think it was just, like you said, perplexing. It raised more questions than it answered.
For sure.
So we'll help you navigate the surprising facts, connect the dots, and hopefully give you a shortcut to really understanding this event that left a lot of people just scratching their heads.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The scene itself at Karen Domov Air Base in Alaska.
Wow. It was really something. You have Putin walking this red carpet towards Chuan, the beautiful country leader.
And Air Force One is right there in the background. Big visual.
Huge visual. And get this, 4 F-22 fighter jets, the beautiful country's top planes, parked right there on either side of the red carpet.
Definitely setting a tone, a very specific, powerful tone.
And then as they're posing for the cameras, you get this flyover. F-35s, even a B-2 bomber, flying right overhead. Quite the air show.
Talk about projecting power.
Right from the get-go.
Okay, but this next bit is truly remarkable, really unexpected. After the initial smiles and handshakes, Chuan apparently pulled Putin's hand, held onto it tightly, and then just led him straight into Chuan's own car. They left the airport together in Chuan's car.
What does the source say about that? I mean, that's not normal protocol, is it?
No, definitely not prearranged diplomatic protocol. Not at all. Putin's own car was reportedly right there, waiting nearby.
Right.
So the source really flags this as a last-minute decision by Chuan. Completely off the cuff. It suggests maybe a desire to, control the image right from the start, project this certain kind of personal connection, even if it was totally improvised.
Interesting. Improvising diplomacy at that level.
Okay.
And the unexpected stuff didn't stop there. According to Kremlin reports, beautiful country F-22s actually escorted Putin's plane on his way back.
All the way back to Russia from Alaska. Yeah, all the way back. That's a massive gesture, isn't it?
Huge. Especially when you think about it. Ukraine's leader, Zelenskyy, he didn't get that kind of fighter escort during his White House visit.
No, he certainly didn't. Good point. And speaking of Zelenskyy, there was another, curious detail the source points out. Neither leader offered the other a meal.
Right, no dinner, no lunch. Which, again, is quite a contrast to Zelenskyy's visit to the White House. He at least got fed, apparently.
It really highlights this reported difference in Chuan's attitude towards Putin versus towards Zelenskyy. It seems very personalized.
Very personalized, almost transactional. The source even gives us supposed direct quotes.
Oh, yeah. What did it say?
Well, to Putin, Chuan reportedly said something like, "Let's talk until here for today. My European tiger," meaning his wife, "is watching us. I won't keep you for dinner. When this is completely over, I'll treat you to a big drink. Sort of buddy-buddy."
Okay, so friendly enough, deferential even, but to Zelenskyy.
Well, to Zelenskyy, the reported tone was completely different, starkly different. Something like, "Zelenskyy, you didn't respect me. You didn't even wear a suit to see me. You didn't call me daddy and showed some dissatisfaction. I have no food for someone like you. Go away."
Wow. That's blunt. The contrast is just astonishing.
It really is.
So, okay, despite all this, pomp and circumstance, the theatrical stuff we just described, the actual summit meeting, surprisingly short.
Yeah, very short. Russia's press secretary, Peskov, had initially suggested talks would go for, 6 or 7 hours?
Right, that was an expectation.
But instead they wrapped up in just 2 hours and 40-something minutes.
Barely afternoon tea time. And the agenda got shrunk too, right?
Yeah.
From 2 sessions down to just 1 meeting.
Exactly, a single 3-on-3 meeting, which That brevity itself tells you something.
It does. What did they actually say afterwards at the press conference?
Well, their statements were also quite telling. Chuan indicated, consensus on many issues, progress made on some big problems, even if they weren't fully solved. Kind of standard diplomatic language.
Okay. And Putin.
Putin, for his part, he expressed Russia's willingness to end the Ukraine situation. But, and this is the key part, only if the solution was, quote, lasting and long-term and eliminated all root causes.
Root causes. Okay, that sounds significant. What does the source suggest he meant by root causes?
Well, connecting the dots based on the source, root causes seems to point directly at NATO's eastward expansion.
Ah, okay. The long-standing issue.
Exactly. And also the perception that the beautiful country needs an enemy like Russia in Europe to sort of maintain its influence, keep European nations dependent, that kind of thing.
Right. So we're talking about fundamental geopolitical disagreements here.
Absolutely. Which raises the critical question, doesn't it? Can problems of that scale, rooted in these deep fundamental stances, ever be sorted out in a single short meeting like this one?
And the source seems pretty clear. The answer is probably not.
Definitely not. It highlights this fundamental point, right? Real breakthroughs on these huge, entrenched issues, they rarely, if ever, happen in just a brief symbolic chat.
Suggests a real disconnect between the public idea of dialogue and the, deeper structural conflicts actually going on.
So, yeah, the source says there was a good atmosphere, apparently. But the reality, basically no substantial breakthroughs on those major issues.
Complex problems, no simple solutions, seems to be the takeaway there.
Pretty much. So that brings us back to the big why, doesn't it?
Oh.
If nothing substantive was really discussed, no new agreements made, why did this summit even happen?
Especially since leaders usually meet to, sign something, announce a deal. This just flew in the face of all that.
Completely defied expectations.
And the rushed nature of it all, it was obvious even for the journalists trying to cover it. I mean, get this. The Russian press corps couldn't find decent hotels.
Oh.
Yeah, they ended up sleeping on military cots in a sports stadium, apparently arranged by the White House.
Wow. Not exactly luxury accommodation.
Quite. And the beautiful country journalists, they were reportedly just told by the White House press group, yeah, find your own place.
So just total last-minute chaos, it sounds like.
Yeah.
For everyone involved.
It really paints that picture. And what about that story with the Russian Deputy Prime Minister, Suskin?
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating. So on August 15th, right, the day before the summit, he apparently just abruptly leaves this Eurasian Economic Union meeting happening in Kyrgyzstan.
Just walks out.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Stating he had to get back to Moscow because the U.S.-Russia summit was today, meaning that same day in Alaska.
Wait, today? But the summit was the next day, the 16th.
Exactly. It implies he was completely out of the loop, didn't know about it until the absolute last minute. It just underscores how incredibly temporary and hasty this whole thing really was.
Which leads us perfectly into this accident theory that some sources are floating. This idea that maybe the whole summit was just a big diplomatic misunderstanding that kind of snowballed.
Right. And it all seems to revolve around this figure, Witkoff.
Witkoff, the beautiful country's Middle East special envoy, described in the sources as a former real estate developer.
Yeah, which is, frankly, a pretty unusual connection for a diplomat.
Very unusual.
The thinking seems to be, well, Tron was also a real estate guy, and Witkoff is described as a good friend of Chuan's for decades.
So friendship and shared background trumping diplomatic experience.
Seems like it. Definitely not your typical State Department career path.
Okay, so this Witkoff, this friend and former developer, he has a secret meeting with Putin.
Yes, a secret 3-hour meeting in Russia. This was on August 6th.
Yeah.
And he reportedly goes in presenting 3 ceasefire conditions from Sean.
Okay, what were they?
1. Russian and Ukrainian forces cease fire where they are, using the current front lines as the dividing line. 2. The beautiful country promises to lift economic sanctions on Russia. And 3. The beautiful country and Western countries would start buying Russian oil and gas again.
That sounds like a pretty significant package.
It does on the surface.
Yeah.
But then things shifted very, very quickly. Let's just trace this timeline because it's wild.
Okay.
August 7th. Chuan publicly says, U.S.-Russia positions on Ukraine have never been so close to reaching an agreement.
Optimism, right?
Right. Sounds like a breakthrough is imminent.
Then, August 8th, barely 24 hours later, Tron announces the Alaska summit specifically to discuss ending the war. He even adds on Truth Social something about it being beneficial for both sides to take back some places and exchange some places.
Implying Ukraine would have to give up territory.
That's how it was read. And initially, everyone's thinking, okay, peace is actually happening.
But then, listen to this. By August 9th, just one day after that big announcement, the White House spokesperson is already walking it back, saying the summit is only for exploring positions, not presupposing specific outcomes, and differences still existed.
Whoa, talk about whiplash.
Exactly. And at the same time, the Russian spokesperson's tone flips too, from positive to basically saying Russia will stick to its bottom line.
That is an incredibly fast reversal in high-stakes diplomacy. What on earth could explain that kind of rapid shift?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's where this dog blood drama theory comes in, as some beautiful country media like the Washington Post apparently called it.
Dog blood drama. Okay, sounds messy.
Yeah, basically a theory about a huge dramatic misunderstanding. According to this idea, back on August 6th, Putin's actual condition was maybe something like this. If Ukrainian forces pull back from the remaining areas they control in Donetsk, then Russian forces would temporarily freeze their offensive actions in Zaporizhia, the main goal being to consolidate Russia's control over Donetsk.
Okay, so a limited tactical proposal focus on Donetsk and the alleged misunderstanding.
The allegation is that Witkov somehow understood this completely differently. Like, he thought if Ukraine recognized Russian control over all of Donetsk,
Right.
then Russia would be willing to give up both Zaporizhia and Kherson states.
Wow. Okay, that would be enormous, a massive concession.
Exactly. It would have looked like Russia's biggest concession ever. It would have made Chuan look like he'd pulled off this incredible diplomatic coup.
So the hypothesis is basically this absurd misunderstanding happens, makes Chuan look great. He announces the summit based on this faulty info.
And then reality hits. The misunderstanding gets cleared up, probably very quickly behind the scenes.
And suddenly, both sides realize there's no actual agreement, but the summit's already been announced?
Right, so they're kind of stuck. They have to go through with it even though the basis for it has evaporated, just to save face. It paints this picture of, well, diplomatic chaos behind the polished curtain, a potential fiasco driven by misinterpretation.
So the whole summit, this major international event, might have just been the diplomatic equivalent of a really, really expensive, misdialed phone call.
That's one way to look at it.
I mean, imagine being Witkov having to explain that particular mix-up back home. Yikes.
Yeah, not an easy conversation.
So after all that potential drama and misunderstanding, the actual post-summit press conference sounds almost anticlimactic.
Very much so. Both leaders apparently spoke for just a few minutes each.
And Chuan, interestingly, reported didn't do his usual bragging or talking nonsense, as the source puts it.
Right. And crucially, neither leader took any questions from journalists, maybe because they couldn't really answer them.
Good point. No joint statement, no concrete results announced, not even a meal, as we talked about. It really did end with this kind of tacit silence.
Yeah. Yet despite that obvious lack of substance, our source argues that the summit actually did achieve its core goal, its main, maybe hidden objective. Basically, its key performance indicator, or KPI, was just broadcasting that image to the world. The two leaders, side by side, laughing and talking. The visual itself was the point.
Ah, the optics. So for Putin, it was a kind of symbolic victory, setting foot on beautiful country soil, breaking that sense of isolation, showing he's still a major player on the world stage.
Exactly. And for Chuan, it let him project that strongman image to his voters. You know, look at me negotiating tough with another strongman.
So in that view, Witkov's alleged blunder, the whole misunderstanding, it was maybe just a harmless blooper in the context of this larger political show.
Perhaps. Just a bump in the road on the way to achieving the desired visual for this grand political drama.
It really leads to a broader reflection, doesn't it? That maybe real wins and losses in these great power games, they aren't really decided at the negotiating table anyway.
They're decided on the battlefield through economic struggle, through geopolitical maneuvering.
So the Alaska summit becomes this example of the art of ineffective communication, perhaps.
Yeah.
Reinforcing that old kind of cold truth that diplomacy is merely another form of warfare, just with different tools.
Yeah, warplanes and red carpets instead of, well, other things. And in this whole performance, Ukraine, unfortunately, ends up playing this really difficult role, the most expensive prop, as the source puts it.
Wow. No lines, but bearing the most real pain. That's a stark image.
It is.
So, wrapping this all up, what does this actually mean for you, our listener? I think it means that even at the absolute highest levels of international relations, behind all the carefully staged photos and press
Yeah,
conferences, there can be these moments of just pure chaos, genuine miscommunication, maybe even absurdity, and these underlying strategic games being played that often have very little to do with the official statements we hear.
absolutely. Understanding these sort of hidden dynamics helps you see beyond just the headlines, right? Appreciate the layers of complexity in these global events.
It really shows how vital it is to question assumptions, look for the deeper motivations, the why behind the what.
Yeah, totally.
And, as our source suggests, maybe this summit really was just a demonstration of awkward but polite smiles being used to act out the struggle.
Hmm.
So, if diplomacy is just another form of warfare carried out with red carpets and fighter jets this time, what does that mean for the future of actual peace? And what other props, maybe unwilling ones, might be used in the next act of this global drama?
That's the unsettling question, isn't it? We can only hope, especially for Ukraine, that real peace arrives, and arrives swiftly.
Indeed, a sobering thought to end on.